Jews in Israel and the United States understand that their respective communities differ, but they frequently struggle to articulate their differences and so get dragged into exchanging insults which mainly boil down to, why are they not like us? The answer, of course, is that they are not us. Americans are Americans, Israelis are Israelis. The differences are inevitable. What are these differences? First, the Jews of Israel are neither concerned about nor preoccupied with Jewish continuity in the diaspora sense. They do not fear that the next generation will not be Jewish. Second, the Jews of Israel do not need to make an effort to feel Jewish or to be actively Jewish. Third, the Jews of Israel are indeed active Jews, much more so than Americans, as this book has consistently proven. Fourth, for the Jews of Israel, Israeliness is a central element of their Jewish identity. In short, Israel's Jews are relaxed, effortless, active patriots.
Hello, I'm Shmuel Rosner from the Jewish People Policy Institute, and our guest today is Micha Goodman. He is an author, a writer, a philosopher. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Micha's book, also released a few months ago in Hebrew, not yet available in English.
It's coming out December in Yale University Press.
Okay. In Hebrew, it's called Chazara Bli Tshuva. I'm not sure how.
So we can't. It's an amazing pun. It's a great pun in Hebrew. Chazara Bli Tshuva. In English, it's going to be called the Wandering Jew.
The Wandering Jew. Okay, and it talks about Israeli Judaism. In a sense, the topics that we both write about are similar. Our approach is different. The book I wrote with Professor Fuchs is more descriptive. Tell us something about your book. What is the essential argument that you're making?
So my book, I think the data that you collected for your book and you present in, how's it called in English?
Israeli Judaism, Portrait of a Cultural
Revolution. So it's exact translation from Hebrew.
Right.
Yeah, yours works. So your data, the data that you present, I think backs an idea that I have in Chazara Bli Tshuva, in The Wandering Jew. And that is that in Israel, there's a gap between what Israeliness really is about and the way Israeliness is represented in the language we use to understand Israeliness. There's a gap. We use hard categories like secular versus religious, very hard categories. And in your book, you prove that those categories are not capturing reality. Actually, they're doing misservice for reality because when we use those categories, we misunderstand reality. Religious Israelis are
we box people into positions that there aren't.
Yes. So what you show is like religious Israelis are much less religious than people know. Secular Israelis are much less secular than people imagine. So your book, you make the point that our categories are false categories, and the dichotomies that are created in the Israeli discourse are false dichotomies. In my book, I think I try to present the philosophy of that phenomenon. I call it, what does alternative religion look like in Israel? And what does alternative secularism look like in Israel? Where, if we think about, for example, alternative secularism, so many Israelis are searching for a way to express their Judaism without being religious. And I call it in my book, how can you intimately connect yourself to the Jewish tradition without being controlled by Jewish tradition.
Or by Jewish religion. It's basically the differentiation between religiosity in the sense that it has some power over your life and tradition, which is something you preserve.
There's an image I use when I speak to Israelis about the ideas of the book. I said, many people imagine Jewish religion as your tough commander from basic training, where you're terrified from, you'll obey, he'll tell you to run, you'll run, he'll tell you to drop the 20, you'll drop the 20. It's the religion of obedience, and tradition is your tough commander from basic training. and then try to reimagine tradition as your wise grandfather. You don't obey your grandfather. You also don't disrespect him. You have a connection with him. He's not in control of your life, and yet you're connected to him and you want to know what he's telling you. I think in that way, the transformation of Jewish religion from authority to inspiration, from, if you want to use Mordechai Kaplan's language, from believing that this is divine to a sense of belonging, on belonging to a story that this is their code, I think that transition captures an idea that I was developing in my book, and I think you prove in your book that that transition is actually the new Israeliness. That's what Israeliness is about.
Yes, I agree with your description. I would say, though, that in both these books, one of the things that you see is that this type of Judaism works best in circumstances such as Israel provides.
Yes.
And hence my question, since we have a conversation in English, and this is about the English translation of the book, and this is about mostly American audience, why is this relevant to Americans or to American Jews?
So that's a very
Is
good
it
question.
relevant?
That's a very good question. I think in Israel there's very unique circumstances. And I think a very important point that you make in your book, and that is that we have to imagine Judaism as there's always different versions of Judaism. I think in your book you use a great metaphor of matzavei tzvira.
Right.
I don't even know how you translate that. It's like different versions, different brands of Judaism. In the Middle Ages, we had Kabbalah, we had Hasidism, we have Lithuanian Judaism, we have Reform Judaism, we have Conservative Judaism. Then you say, we have Israeli Judaism. It's a new brand of Judaism. And it's not less Jewish than Kabbalah or Hasidism or Conservative Judaism. These are all authentic brands of Judaism. And here in Israel, we have Israeli Judaism. And that's a very important insight for Jews in America to know. Because we like to think about Israel as a place where Jews live. And you're saying, you should know, it's also a place that's cultivating a different Judaism, a new Judaism. And now you're saying, maybe Americans and Israelis, not only do we don't share the same land, not only do we don't share the same language, not only, as it seems so, we don't share the same politics, we also don't have the same brand of Judaism. And I think your point makes that, I think that's what's going to create a very interesting conversation around your book now that it's coming out in English. And the conversation around your book will be a fresh conversation regarding the relationship between Israeli Jews and American Jews. These are different brands of Judaism.
Well, the fear is always that these are not just different brands. It is that we might be splitting to two different cultures.
It's
completely different.
Yes, it's a very interesting. I tell you, I think there's 4 elements we have in Israeli Judaism that are unique and that cultivate the Israeli Judaism we both talk about. One is the shared language. Hebrew is very powerful. It's hard to imagine how powerful Hebrew is. The fact that we all know Hebrew, it means we share the same literature, the same music, and the fact that it's in Hebrew, it always echoes motifs from the past.
And also because Hebrew is spoken by so few people in the world, it's really ours.
It's ours.
It's not English is the language that everybody shares.
That's right. It's a lingua franca. This is ours. It's a unique, it's particular, it's ours. And Hebrew is where the traditional and the modern are in harmony, where they unite. You listen to Ehud Banai, or Evyatar Banai, or Meir Banai, or anybody that his last name is Banai.
Right.
Yeah.
These are Israeli songwriters.
Yes, and
singers.
They're like Bruce Springsteen. We're talking. These are hardcore. These are not avant-garde challenging mainstream. This is Bob Dylan. Ehud Banai is like Bob Dylan. And I'm friendly with Ehud, and we had a conversation once about a song. He describes the following song: Ani holech begesher ha'alacha, mechapes et derech hashalom.
Right.
Okay, now it's very hard to translate. I'm walking on the bridge of halacha, searching for the road of peace. Now these are names of places.
Of actual places. In Tel Aviv.
Entering Tel Aviv when you're traffic jam and you are cursing, you are in Gesher HaHalacha and there's Derech HaShalom, and it's very, very, very contemporary. And yet, extremely Jewish, ancient, and traditional. Thinking about halacha
I'm
as a
walking
bridge.
the road of Jewish law and searching for peace.
And searching for peace. So it's such a powerful metaphor that all Israelis get immediately. Because Hebrew is multi-layered. And it's very Israeli and very Jewish, very modern, very traditional. All this happens and is alive in Israeli culture. In the books we read, the music we listen to, it's all alive. A second element is the fact that you're living in a land where the majority of people you interact with are Jewish. That is Israeli. It's uniquely Israeli. The majority, and that creates something. The fact that almost all your friends are Jewish, that means, by the way, that you're not under threat. You're not afraid what will happen to my grandchildren. Will they stay Jewish? I think you show in your book
if
that
there's assimilation, it will be assimilation into Jewishness.
into Jewishness. That's right.
Not out of,
Right.
but into.
There is a number I forgot in your book you deliver. I think 80% of Israelis were absolutely certain that their grandchildren will be Jewish, right? Or 90%.
Yeah, it's a very high
Very
number.
high percent. I don't think Americans have the same certainty about their grandchildren.
Well, not if they're realistic.
Yes, not if they're. So that's a second. So we speak a Jewish language. We interact almost only with Jewish people. 3, Jewish land. We are in Eretz Israel, which echoes the Bible wherever you go. Wherever you go. There is a road in Jerusalem called, where everybody hangs out, called Emek Rephaim. Emek Rephaim is the valley where King David defeated his enemies. These are everything. The Bible is everywhere in Israel. You're in the ancient land of the Jewish people. And finally, Jewish time. We live Jewish time in Israel. The calendar is Jewish. In Israel, when you say that you're before the holidays, the Chagim, it's not Christmas. It's Rosh Hashanah. Now you put this together. Land, space, time, people, language, and what you have is Israeli Judaism. Because when you live in Jewish time, in a Jewish place, with Jewish people, speaking Hebrew, the Jewish language, so you don't need Jewish rituals anymore to feel very, very Jewish. And I think your book shows that secular Israelis that don't
When we go to them and we ask them, do you practice any Judaism? And they'll say, no, we do nothing. And then you hand them a questionnaire with 400 questions and they answer positively 220 questions.
Yes.
Because what else is there?
That's right. It's in the air. So this is why Rabbi Jonathan Zaks had a great observation. He said the Jews in Israel are the chosen people. And the Jews in diaspora are the choosing people. We're the chosen people because if we want to or not, our Judaism is imposed on us. It's chosen for us. It's in the air. The space, the time, the people, the language, it's in the air. In order for a Jew in America to know Hebrew, for many of his friends to be Jewish, to celebrate intensely Jewish time, and to have an intimacy with Jewish land, with the land of Israel, you have to invest probably a lot of money in sending him to the right to Jewish school and summer camp and intense education and to perform a lot of rituals to keep it alive. And even then, you don't have a guarantee.
And you have to keep choosing it.
You have to keep choosing it. So in Israel, Judaism is chosen for us in the diaspora. You're the choosing people. You have to make... By the way, there's great advantages in being the choosing people. It's more exciting. It's more interesting. It's never trivialized. Judaism is not taken for granted. One of the spiritual threats we have in Israel is because Judaism is just there in the air. We never choose it. We're not aware of it. It could be very boring. It's taken for granted. It's trivialized. For North American Jews, since Judaism is not secured, it's not in the air, and the language of being is English, and the people you interact with are non-Jews, and time is Christmas, and the space is America, since you have to fight hard and work hard to choose every day to be Jewish, Judaism is more excited in North America, more exciting. It's more natural, more guaranteed in Israel. That creates two different styles of Judaism.
Right. So I'll ask you a question that I often get from American friends or from people I talk to about my book. And they say, okay, what can we take from it? We American Jews, if these things are unique to Israel and its circumstances, why should we care? Or what can we take from it as we think about our own type or brand of Judaism?
So, two things. One, Israel is a part of your Judaism. It's problematic, people debate it, argue about it, but arguing about Israel, debating Israel, supporting Israel, not supporting Israel, are components in the identity of American Jews.
Yeah, whether you hate it or love it,
It's a
there
part
is
of
a
who-
sentiment there.
And it's a part of who you are.
Right.
Your position regarding Israel is not a position, like a position regarding Brexit is a position you have. A position regarding Israel, it's a part of who you are. It's not an opinion,
Right.
it's an identity issue. So that's why so since Israel is a part of not the worldview of American Jews, but the identity of American Jews, so getting to know Israeli Judaism is very important just by itself. Just realizing that Israel is not a place where Jews live, it's also where Judaism is alive and it's different. And it's, for Americans, it might look weird and interesting. That itself has its own value.
Okay, so that's an educational component. But
It's not only because Judaism is the identity of many American Jews, it's more than informative. It's important to know who is the Israel that you are wrestling with and dealing with. And finally, now what can we learn from Israeli Judaism? Is there anything there to learn besides the fact that Israel itself is interesting? See, American Jews are always dealing with the question that Israeli Jews don't deal with, continuity.
right.
We have a different challenge in Israel.
That's one of the things that we show in the book, that continuity as a topic for Jews in Israel. And this is not just unique for Israel compared to other places. It's unique to Israel compared to most other Jewish times. Jews not having to worry about continuity.
That's right. But there's something else we worry about. On the way here, I was listening to the radio to an interview with some ex-generals about Iran.
Right.
So in Israel, we're thinking about survival. Physical survival.
Right.
In America, you're thinking about the survival of your identity. So in Israel, we're trying, let's say, to protect Jewish bodies, and that's a challenge we have. We go to the military, it's a big deal for us.
Right.
In North America, you're trying to protect not the Jewish identity. We have different challenges. For our challenges, we need the Air Force. For your challenges in North America, you need education, you need summer camps, you need birthright, or whatever it is that you figure out that's most efficient, that works. Probably all of the above and more. So we have very different challenges. And so American Jews are dealing constantly with continuity. Echad Ha'am, which is a big hero of my book. Echad Ha'am.
True.
I think you quote him in your book a bit, but it's not about Echad Ha'am.
As one of the founders of Zionist philosophy.
So Echad Ha'am had a vision. He saw this problem. He was visionary, just like Theodor Herzl saw the problems of anti-Semitism. Before anti-Semitism, Echad Ha'am saw the problems of assimilation. Putting it differently, Herzl realized that there's a problem that non-Jews want to kill Jews, and Echad Ha'am noticed that there's another problem that non-Jews might want to marry Jews one day. They're different problems, and they both had different solutions. And Echad Ha'am thought that Zionism is the answer to that problem. Why? He said that when religion is weak, and people can't hold on to religion in order to have a strong sense of identity, they need an alternative. And the alternative would be a charismatic culture, a culture you want to absorb, you want to consume, it becomes a part of who you are. And he said in order to create a charismatic culture that will replace the power of religion and offer people identity in a secular age, we need to have a group of people living in the same land, speaking Hebrew, developing culture that would spread in the world and give people meaning. People like to quote Ben Gurion and other founding fathers of Zionism that see Israel as a light into the nations, that Israel one day will inspire nations. I think for Echad Ha'am, Israel is a light for Jews. It's spreading a message that will help Jews. And I think there's something Echad Ha'am didn't see happening, a language gap, which means I think in Israel we are developing an amazing culture. We discussed Ehud Banai. We could discuss different books that your publisher is coming at. It's an amazing, rich culture. You agree with me? This is like
Yes,
very
I agree.
deep, very
And
rich.
it's a culture that we have difficulty sharing with
And we have it in
other Jews.
movies. But the problem is, and we, secular Israelis, are breathing this culture and it's giving them meaning, inspiration, identity. And Chadam had this vision that, that culture will be shared by all the Jews in the world. But if they don't know Hebrew, they can't really listen to Ehud Banai. So I want to offer just a thought. In order to enjoy Israeli culture, the current paradigm is that what protects Jewish identity is halacha, is Jewish law. And I think the numbers show that the more observant you are, the more your continuity is guaranteed.
That's true.
Right? But what if law is not a live option for me? Because I'm not halacha.
And it's not for most Jews,
And it's not for most
neither
Jews.
in Israel nor in the rest of the world. It's not the option that they choose.
So maybe we should consider Hebrew. If Hebrew be a living, I know it takes a lot. It's investment.
Yeah, some people would say, well, studying Hebrew is like practicing halacha. It's no less difficult.
It's no less difficult, but it's an option for you. It's not weird because you're not religious. It's not weird. It's a language. It's great to learn another language. And once you have Hebrew, you have all Israeli culture can be injected into your life. And you can also, by the way, if you know Hebrew, you could even contribute to that. You could write songs yourself. You could do skits on YouTube yourself. So maybe there is no easy way to guarantee Jewish continuity, but there's not only one hard way, either halacha or Hebrew. Halacha, you enable Jewish religion to protect your identity. Hebrew, you enable Jewish living culture to protect your identity. But I don't think it's possible to protect your identity without putting in effort. Unless you live in Israel, without doing anything, it's guarded. But in the States, or wherever our English speakers readers are, you have to make an effort either through halacha or through culture, and culture comes through Hebrew.
Right. So let's go back to Israeli Judaism. And you said previously that the fact that we have what we call in the book effortless Judaism.
You call it effortless Judaism, great.
You said, well, maybe it's too relaxed. Maybe the fact that we don't have to think much about it is also a problem. So where's the problem?
So, relationships between couples, when they're just dating, it's exciting. When they get married, many people say it's less exciting. What's the difference?
Well, I disagree, but I don't know about you. I disagree.
Okay. A friend told me.
In case my wife says this, I disagree.
So what's the difference? Any relationship that's not guaranteed is exciting and you fight for it. Once you feel like it's guaranteed, it gets trivialized and deteriorates. I think for American Jews, it's not guaranteed. It's exciting. It's like dating. It could end. Therefore, you fight for it not to end. In Israel, it's in the air. You can't see it. It's there all the time. So I think my challenge in Israel is how do you get excited about Judaism even when it's guaranteed? It's just like...
And this is what you do as an educator. You're
working
with young people.
That's
well,
right.
As a writer and educator.
And by writing and by educating, I'm trying. And another challenge. How do you make Judaism exciting without making it extreme? There's easy ways of exciting people through extreme messages. How do you keep Judaism moderate and yet passionate? I feel that this is happening in Israel. I feel like in my work in Ein Prat, this is happening. You have a lot of Israel, and I think it resembles a larger phenomenon. Many Israelis are getting more and more excited about Judaism, passionate about their Judaism, without becoming religious fanatics. This is a phenomenon happening in Israel. And I think it could happen partially because we all share a language and there is room to have a shared culture that excites us.
And do you think that knowledge gap is also part of the problem in Israel? Do we need to learn more?
Yes. Well, in Israel, we're suffering from a knowledge gap in the sense that secular Israelis many times are very ignorant regarding basic rituals. And it has to do with the fact
So
that...
they practice, but they don't really know what they're practicing?
No, like, you have to have basic literacy to walk into a synagogue and to understand what's going on. And the most embarrassing thing that can happen to your synagogue is, you're caught on the wrong page. Everybody's standing, sitting. It's very hard. Even for me today, sometimes it's hard to just follow. A synagogue, what's happening, what's going on? And if you don't have a basic education, it's very hard as a foreigner to enter a synagogue. Now, for American Jews, this is a bigger problem because the synagogue is the main place where you find
That's
Judaism.
the channel through which they practice.
That's right. In Israel, you speak Hebrew, and most of your friends are Jewish, and you serve in the military, and Hanukkah songs on the radio. You could be very Jewish without synagogue.
It's public place and family-oriented Judaism.
Yes.
You don't have to go to the synagogue.
I read in your book, and I forget the number. Humongous amount of Israelis do Kiddush every Friday night.
Right, yeah. But a majority do have a Kiddush, a majority light candles. And I think that the most amazing fact is that more than 80% majority have a family dinner on Friday night that includes children who come back, even grown-up children who go back to their parents' houses.
Now that is amazing. That is enabling Judaism strengthen our important institutions. Like Shabbat dinner, Friday night dinner, is arguably the most important Jewish ritual. I'm not saying halacha locates that on the top, but we think about the problems of modernity, of loneliness, of lack of meaning. You think about a ritual that people practice together every week, even if they're secular in Israel, Kiddush and Shabbat dinner. And that means no matter where Israelis are, they come home to their mom, they eat their mom's food, they fight with their brothers, with their siblings, they have to suffer with each other for 2 hours every Friday nights. And I don't know the numbers, but my feel from my close and American friends is that in America it's in Thanksgiving, it's in Leil HaSeder, meaning...
Well, the geography makes a difference.
The geography. So in America, what's annual family events in America are weekly family events in Israel. So the combination between the size and the ritual create weekly opportunity to use an ancient tradition, Judaism, in order to solve modern problems, loneliness, strengthen the family unit. Israelis are very family-oriented. I think you're right about this. Even secular Israelis have a lot of kids,
right,
more than any other country, secular country in the West. And I think it has to do with the smart way that we tap into Judaism. We tap into parts of our tradition to bring out the best from ourselves. I think Kiddush is not spoken about enough. It's a very important institution that brings the best out of Israelis.
Last question. Imagining Israeli Judaism 20 years, 30 years down the road, base case, worst case scenarios.
Best case scenario is that the narrative will reflect the reality. Right now we have a narrative that doesn't reflect reality. We have a narrative of hardcore secular people, hardcore religious people constantly clashing, constantly fighting. In reality, most Israelis are moderately religious, moderately secular, highly get along with each other. They're very Jewish, very Israeli, not extreme. The narrative doesn't fit reality. Base case scenario, reality becomes the narrative.
That's worst case.
No,
that's
best case scenario. Reality becomes a narrative. We have a narrative of Israel that's moderate and passionate and centrist. Worst case scenario, the narrative becomes reality. That this polarized Israel between secular and religious, the narrative becomes reality. That Israelis can't stand each other. Religion is hijacked by the most extreme versions of religion. Secularism is hijacked by the most extreme versions of secularism. So best case scenario is that reality defeats the narrative. Worst case scenario is that narrative shapes reality.
And I should say that while our book describes the current realities, your book is trying to prevent the worst case scenario and encourage.
That's right. I like to see myself not just as an intellectual describing the world. I'm also a street fighter. I'm trying to make a difference in Israel.
Micha Goodman, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.